The latest on the Harvey Weinstein trial, Beyonce continues to rule the world. Taylor Swift ticket sales break down Ticketmaster. And why is Candace Cameron Beret under hot water?
It's all coming up right now on The Take.
Hey everyone, and welcome to The Take. I'm Elizabeth Wagmeister.
And I'm Clayton Davis, and we're here to give you our take on some of the week's biggest stories. There was a lot of news this week, some good and some news.
Yes, it sounds like a typical week in Hollywood. We always have some good things to celebrate and a lot of controversy to dig into. But let's start off with some good news because the Grammy nominations are in.
Yep, and Queen Bee, Beyonce, leads the charge, receiving 9 nominations, brings her career total to 88. Now the most nominated artist in history, tied with her husband, Jay-Z. She also becomes the first woman of color to receive 4 Album of the Year nominations across her career. Also some big news, Kendrick Lamar close behind with 8 nominations, while Adele and Brandi Carlile got 7 apiece. Some other bits of history though, our lovely Bad Bunny becomes the first artist with a Spanish language album to get nominated for Album of the Year. I can't wait to see what he wears. It's just like that.
Always.
That album is incredible. I like the field. The big takeaway that I took was Viola Davis could possibly EGOT. She received a nomination for her spoken word album, and that usually is the pathway to an EGOT. And based on the lineup, it looks like she's going to do it.
I love that. And I love this about the Grammy Awards because it seems like, there's kind of these like backdoor ways to get an EGOT. Yeah. And you would never think off the top of your head, Viola Davis Grammy Award. But I love that with the Grammy Awards, you get artists who aren't musicians typically, and they can get nominations. Now, with that, there was some controversy. Also, Dave Chappelle and Louis C.K., they got Grammy nominations, but we will move on from
Cancel
that.
Culture.
We'll
Crazy.
move on from that so we can just focus on the good news. I would love to see Viola become an EGOT. She would be the 3rd Black woman to do so after Whoopi Goldberg and Jennifer Hudson. Of course, I love that Queen Bee is leading the charge. I'm also not surprised. But in some other music news, aside from the Grammys, Taylor Swift has been making headlines this week because if you tried to get a ticket on Ticketmaster, you probably ran into some trouble. So Taylor Swift, by the way, midnight's obviously too soon for it to be eligible for the Grammy. So this is not a snub, it's just not eligible. She's actually the opposite of being snubbed because she is the biggest artist on the frickin' planet because she essentially broke Ticketmaster. Now, it's not her fault. It's their fault for not being able to control this. But they say in their explanation of why this happened that 2 million people were buying tickets for her tour, which is going to start in March next year.
She can't sell anything, it looks like. I just want to say one thing. Obviously, excited for a concert. I did not get tickets. But this was the first time, and I feel like a dad now, officially, because the lineup for Best New Artist looked like words to me. I don't know any of the nominees. I'm trying to catch up. Entertainment is a lot to cover, and we move on, and hopefully the show is going to be an excellent ceremony.
Yes, someone who's making headlines for a much different reason this week, Candace Cameron Beret. You know her as DJ Tanner from Full House, and you also know her as the Queen of Christmas because she has been the face of all of the Christmas movies on Hallmark for years. Well, now she has pivoted to a competing network of Hallmark called Great American Family, and this week she has stirred up a lot of controversy for a new interview in which she says that the Christmas movies at Great American Family are going to focus on traditional marriages. Now, the reason why this is stirring up a lot of backlash is because this was in response to being asked about diversity and what will be represented in these holiday films. And she says that we want to really focus on Christmas and traditional marriages, which means that she's leaving out LGBTQ relationships. Now, this didn't surprise me because our own Emily Longaretta, our colleague at Variety, she actually got the first interview with Candace Cameron Beret back in September, her first interview about her moving to Great American Family. And when Emily asked this question, she maybe didn't answer it as blatantly and as forward, but she essentially said the same thing. Now, to make matters worse, in this same interview with the Wall Street Journal, where Candace Cameron Beret said traditional marriages is what we're going to be focused on, then the head of the network, the executive Bill Abbott, he said, it is the year 2022, so we're certainly aware of the trends, meaning that LGBTQ marriages are trends. Now, it's not a trend to be gay. It's not a trend to be anything that you are. You are who you are. So you could understand why people are getting upset about this.
In this week where the conservative movement continues to upset and be very pronounced right now, and that includes a certain former president now announcing that he's running, seeing someone like Mike Pence do a CNN town hall and talk about, the values of being a Republican and being a conservative. It all just feels like noise and a lot of, hypocrisy. And that's what I see a lot of. And people want to put LGBTQ in a box and pretend it's not there. They're here. They're always going to be here. They've been here throughout history. And the faster everyone can catch up to that, the better it's going to be for everyone. And people want unity. This is where unity starts. Mm-hmm. Having that inclusive conversation. And Candace Cameron, like her brother, is really missing the mark here. But actually, some good positive LGBTQ representation this week was the premiere of Strange World, which is the 61st film in the Walt Disney Animation Studios canon, featuring the first openly LGBTQ child in a film. He's biracial. He has Jake Gyllenhaal as a dad. He has Gabrielle Union as a mom. And it is just normalized. Mm-hmm. There is such beautiful imagery that's going on the screen. And there's even, without giving away any spoilers, there's a scene in which, a grandfather is talking to his grandson and he asks him, do you have any crushes at school? We've all kind of had that conversation before. And he says, tell me about them. And he says, well, his name is, and I was waiting for them to be like, wait, what? Him? It just continued. He just went, all right, let me tell you how to get him to notice you. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to see. Mm-hmm. Strange World is a great beacon of hope, especially for Disney, mm-hmm. who faced a little backlash with the Don't Say Gay bill last year or whenever that was.
Yes, well, I'm so glad to hear that. I can't wait to see it. But you also were one of the first people this week to see another film that has everybody talking, Babylon. And your story that you wrote, the headline caught my attention. So please break it down. What was your first reaction?
Speaking of sins, right? We have Babylon, the 3-hour, 8-minute epic from Damien Chazelle, best known for La La Land and Whiplash. Stars Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, and newcomer Diego Calva, takes a look at 1920s Hollywood and the transition from silent films to talkies. Well, it talked a lot, and let's break this down for you. If you are a little squeamish, meaning you're not down with elephant feces, you're not down with sexual groups, or just general blackface, I don't think this is the movie for you. So
not what I was expecting to. As I mentioned, your headline, I read that and I was like, whoa, I had no idea what this was about.
But it's going to be a conversation starter. It's very divisive. I don't know if it's an Oscar contender, but Don't Look Up didn't look like an Oscar contender either. And then it did what it did.
And look, certainly a stellar cast. I mean, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, also Damien Chazelle behind the camera. So obviously you have some great momentum there, but now I have to see it for better or for worse. But let's move on to our final story of the week. I am covering the Harvey Weinstein trial downtown in Los Angeles at the courthouse. And this week, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, who is the wife to California Governor Gavin Newsom, she took the stand to testify. She has accused Harvey Weinstein of raping her in 2005. And this week, she was on the stand for a grueling 2 days of testimony and cross-examination. It was pretty brutal, as you would expect. This is a trial where you are hearing women make very serious allegations of sexual assault. We know that Harvey Weinstein has been accused by over 100 women, only a fraction of them making their way into a courtroom. He's already convicted from his New York trial, serving 23 years. And now he faces 7 new charges. That was some other news this week. Actually, 4 charges were dropped. So before he was facing a maximum of 140 years, now he's facing 60 years. Definitely a big difference, but obviously still very high stakes in this trial. Jennifer Siebel Newsom is without a doubt the star witness of this trial. You could understand why. She is the wife to the governor. She's also an actor and an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker. When Weinstein's defense was cross-examining her, they brought up a series of emails. She had sent a lot of emails, dozens of emails to Weinstein after this alleged incident, and she explained that because he was so powerful that she felt like she had to stay in contact with him to keep a cordial relationship. On the other side, the defense is saying, this doesn't make sense. Why would you stay in touch? But again, this is a pattern that we're seeing, not just with her, with all women in this trial, talking about this imbalance of power.
I think this is a very simple way to put it. It's always mind-boggling why people feel that still talking to your attacker, the person who raped you, the person who is just ruining the innocence that you had inside, is the signal that this didn't happen. And the more that we continue to villainize women who come forward, the more difficult it's going to be in the future. I say we, I'm really talking about society,
right.
because we are covering it the way it should be covered. And I want more people to be covering it. But it doesn't just happen to, Newsom governor wife. It happens down to maintenance woman that works, or maintenance man that works in the building. You just never know. We have to speak up, speak out, and make sure that these people feel supported so more can come forward if they're out there.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Clayton. And thanks to all of you for always joining us right here on The Take.
See you next time.